In Newport News, Virginia, an outpouring of love and support for Abigail Zwerner, that first grade teacher that was critically injured but has taken a remarkable turn and is now awake in the hospital. Police hailing Zwerner a hero, saying that she saved lives on Friday after taking a bullet to the chest when a 6-year-old brought a 9mm handgun to school and fired it inside the classroom. Police say she acted bravely and got all the students out of that classroom. She was the last one to leave. Now, currently, that 6-year-old boy is receiving treatment at a medical facility. He is under a temporary detention order. Police say that gun was legally purchased by his mother. Whether or not she'll face charges, they say the facts of the investigation will determine that.
Now, who is this 6-year-old? Obviously, they're not going to identify this kid, release his name or nothing like that because he's just 6 years old. And I thought that maybe they would release the names of the parents, or now they just mentioning the mom, so they're not even, I guess maybe it's just the mom at home, but they're not releasing the name. So I just did a little research on my own. So what you're looking at right now is kind of like Newport News, the hood kind of areas and stuff like that. So in order to try to find out who exactly the kid was, right, I decided to, research the area of the school and, research Newport News. So what you see right here is just my little Newport News ghetto research, right? This is like the hoods of Newport News, the projects and stuff like that. And you can see Michael Vick grew up here. Allen Iverson grew up here in these areas and stuff like that too. So it's kind of interesting. But actually what I found out about the school was this neighborhood right here, you see where these places at, and this hood, this is like, I guess, like the downtown area, right, of Newport News. You see this little map right here, right? So it's showing these different areas, right? The most heavily populated area. So now I looked at that as a relation to the school. How far is that from the school? Now, just looking at the school, you see, the school is not too good. Low scores, low percentage of math, the lower, right? This is lower percentages in everything. Student-teacher ratios was more students per classroom than the state requires. You see they're in the bottom 50% of all of these school scores, and the gender. This is, man, so you see. So I'm trying to find out some information about the school, right? The diversity score is right at so they're at the bottom. The math, this is the next to it, 82 is the city quota, and then what the school is on the left-hand side, right? So 45% black, supposed to be 22% black, city, right? It's 26% white. Okay, eligible for free lunch, 45% of the school. According to the state, only supposed to be 35%. So little things like that, right? So now this tells me, okay, this is a ghetto school. This is in the hood, right? Now, the relation from the downtown areas where I said like Allen Iverson and Michael Vick and all of them is from, and predominantly black areas, is downtown, right? So now when you go to the school, to Rich Neck Elementary School, it's about 27 minutes from the downtown area, but it's still hood. So that's why I take it. So I just came to the conclusion that, okay, and in Virginia is a little bit different. It's not like I'm from New York City. In my hood, you're not gonna see no white people. I'm from South Jamaica, Queens, in New York City. There's no white people in my hood. Now, I currently live in Georgia. I've been living out here for a couple years. It's like hoods out here where it's black and white people. It's a little bit mixed. Even it's like that in New York and like Long Island too. Like, you know what I mean? So now knowing that the downtown areas and all that's predominantly black, the hoods up more where the school is towards I think it's a little more it's hood, but it's a more diverse hood. So you probably have those, those white, trailer park types, and I mean, not to be racist or nothing like that, but the poor white people that live by the black people. You know what I mean? You know how I go. So It's crazy. You see the minority, 74% of the students are black in this school. He just pulled out the gun and shot just one time. So now they got the kid locked up in a hospital, man. Well, just, for further evaluation, and they probably gonna bring charges on the mother. And even though the father wasn't there, he should be charged even more because he should be there to protect his family, and maybe the wife wouldn't have had to have a gun just in plain sight so she can get to it fast. And not to make excuse for her either, both of them need to be locked up, man. Immediately, man.
The police chief gave an update on the investigation, including where the student got the gun and how the teacher is doing.
We have live team coverage. A prayer vigil for the teacher is set to begin in about 30 minutes. Angelique Arontok is there. But we start with Ann Sparacco with that update from the police chief. Ann.
Well, David, Janet, Newport News Police Chief Steve Drew said the teacher, Abby Zwerner, is in stable condition at the hospital, talking with her family. He said when he first spoke to her on Saturday, one of the first things that came out of her mouth was, "Do you know how my students are?" And now Chief Drew said after a thorough investigation, detectives are learning the child got the gun from inside his own home.
Mrs. Zwerner was providing class instruction. The 6-year-old child displayed a firearm, pointed it at her, and fired one round.
Newport News Police Chief Steve Drew called 25-year-old first-grade teacher Abby Zwerner a hero when describing the shooting that unfolded Friday afternoon inside a classroom. The chief said it started when the child pulled a handgun out in the middle of a lesson and pointed it at the first-grade teacher. He said that's when Zwerner put her hand up in defense, and the 6-year-old student fired one bullet, hitting both her hand and her upper chest. He said Zwerner still got up and rushed her students out of the classroom.
And she turned around. She turned around to make sure that every one of those students was safe.
This is the second shooting inside a Newport News public school building in the last 17 months. It's leaving Superintendent Dr. George Parker III searching for a better solution.
Well, there's a lot to learn here and a lot to unpack. And I would not stand here and say that we have all the answers. But we're up to the task of making sure that we do what's necessary to make sure that our elementary schools are safe, and that we can minimize any risk of future violence in our schools.
Drew said detectives spoke with the child's mother and learned she had a legally purchased 9mm handgun out of York County, and the child put the gun in his book bag before she drove him to school.
I just want to reiterate that this shooting was not accidental. It was intentional.
And Chief Drew said the boy is at a nearby hospital for evaluation. He did not say if the boy or his mother would face any charges in this situation. Reporting live in Newport News, I'm Ann Sparacco for 13 News Now.
As for the child who fired the gun, Chief Drew said his department is working with Child Protective Services and a community service board to seek guidance.
He called the situation rare, saying he is still navigating how to handle it. And a prayer vigil for the teacher, Abby Zwerner, is set to begin in about 20 minutes. Angelique Arontok picks up our team coverage from there.
Peace.
The outpouring of support for Abby Zwerner is overwhelming. One example of that is a vigil happening within the hour at 6:30, in part to honor her and to pray about her during this time. As you can see, some people have already started to gather here outside of the Newport News Public Schools Administration building. The organizer of this vigil, Amanda Bartley, is a school teacher herself. She's asking people who will stop by tonight to wear green and bring candles. She wants to unite people in prayer as Zwerner recovers at the hospital. This afternoon, Police Chief Steve Drew said the first-grade teacher at Rich Neck Elementary remains in stable condition at the hospital. Bartley hopes to rally support around Zwerner, although she doesn't know her personally.
We have to show our support for our own. We have to show support for Miss Abby and for the students and all the staff over at Rich Neck. I wholeheartedly believe that prayer works, and this seems like the most appropriate thing to do.
In addition to praying for Zwerner, Bartley says she is also praying for the 6-year-old child who police say pulled the trigger in that shooting.